right, hey folks, we're going to do some artwork this morning. Give me a moment here to check in on my signal to make sure that I am coming through clearly, and then we are going to get to work here for a couple hours. So mic check, mic check. We are going to get to work here for a couple hours. So mic check, mic check. Sounds pretty good. Okay, I'm going to drop that volume down there to keep it out of the way. I'm going to grab the link here so I can do some quick social media posts, and I'm creating an adventure for the Eberron campaign setting. It's called Crystals of Mabar. You can see the book cover here on screen. Well, let me say, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing games, I illustrate them, and then I publish them online. And I've been creating content for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition on the DMsGuild since 2018. I've been a freelance illustrator since 1999. I've been an Eberron enthusiast since 2004. And I've been a DM since 1987. And although I've done a lot of stuff on DMsGuild, I have not created anything specifically for the Eberron campaign setting. And I do so love Eberron. And so I wanted to create an adventure, and I wanted to do something for Eberron. So here I am making an adventure for Eberron. There you go. So give me a second here. I am just about done with my signal. There we go. Okay, cool. So I can collapse all that, and we'll go over here. We'll fix our screen so we can actually start getting to work. If you think this stuff is cool, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications. Hey, thanks a lot. New subscribers today. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notification when we're live. Here's a bunch of books that I've already created that are on the DMsGuild. They all have free previews. Be welcome to check them out. Crystals of Mabar will also have a free preview when it is released, so check it out. And thanks for anyone that's interested in this stuff. So we've got our screen fixed, and we'll get rid of the cover. So today we're creating a necrotic forest. The adventure takes place mostly in a manifest zone to the plane of Mabar, which is the realm of undead and darkness and rot. We already had an illustration of the Carnwood closer to the village where the characters could interact with locals that are noticing people disappearing and monsters and stuff. But as we get further and further inward towards the manifest zone, it converts from a misty, spooky forest to a rotten, necrotic forest. So I'm still using this image here as a reference for us to grab color for our trees that will then be able to rotify. And we began that process over here already. So I'm going to push up the green a little bit on this. And if it ends up being a sickly color, even better. So I'm going to, right now, just overlay, I think. We built this composition, which is a decent framework for us to start with. And hopefully, if we do well, it'll end up something equal quality, fanciness, detail, etc. as this. But obviously, it's not going to have the lush foliage on the trees because they're rotting. So this is an experiment. I'm not sure how it's going to turn out, but this is where my muse is guiding me to. So we trust in Muse and follow her lead, and we'll see where today takes us. So it's a vacation day here in America. I've got bank holidays off, so it's Labor Day. So I get to spend time with family and friends later on today, but I'm just sticking to the routine of booking in hours for the project. And every morning, Monday through Friday, unless crazy circumstances arise, I'm streaming artwork like this for a couple hours before I go into my day job. And then we do game design on Mondays and Thursday nights, including tonight. Probably like around 6 o'clock Seattle time, minus 8 UTC, and that's Pacific time, or 9 o'clock East Coast. And thin that down, crank up the smudge so I can thin things down more easily. I think I'm going to stick to the initial sketch that I have here for the most part. I think I can improve upon it though. We'll see. We'll see where I stick and I deviate. I'm going to keep all of this stuff in place, but they're all separate folders, separate files, so I can draw and erase across these other tree sketches without concern of destroying them. I'm gonna actually drop the opacity on this foreground tree here a lot so that it starts to fade into the background so it doesn't get in the way. I don't know what we're talking about today. I'm just logging on and doing the hours, getting the work done. Sometimes I'm blessed with cool conversations and inspiration about something, a particular topic that may have fired me up for conversation, but I don't have anything currently burning a hole through my brain to talk about. Let's do that. So I'm just going to sketch, and I'll probably be tapping at keys and muttering to myself occasionally, and if someone asks a question, I'll be happy to answer it, whether it's about art or DMing. But until a topic comes along that grabs my attention, I'm just basically going to be making like commentary about like the different art, like the different decisions I make during the project here that I'm doing the artwork for, or if something inspires, just whatever. I'm just going to talk about whatever. I want to have some of these going in the opposite direction because it's drooping. I feel like I want to make that thinner and this longer. I think that's going to help push this tree further into the foreground, like to have the branch looking towards us as opposed to away from us, given which droopiness is most dominant on the branch. So I want to have drooping. If I have the line going, if the tree limb is going this way and the dominant lines are going this way, that kind of looks like it's heading towards us. So that's the idea. Oh, just to share with you guys, for anyone that's around, the other pieces that we've done. First off, obviously we created Aether Academy in a previous stream that gets dropped amongst these pages here. I have the opportunity to add a couple more lines for concluding the adventure using the Aether Acquisitions plotline. I'm going to take advantage of that. I just haven't been inspired as to what those lines are going to be yet. They're percolating. And then here at the front end, we've been working on, here is what words am I trying to use here? So this is Aether Academy, so we're going to put some bookshelves here and some dark nook back here. This is Professor Carter, Karrtar, Carter. He is working on a book. This is your contact for the Aether Academy plot hook. He's lost an artifact that connects to the plane of Mabar, the source of necrotic energies, and he wants it back, and he wants it back quietly so that people don't start questioning the security of Aether Academy. This is the start of some images. One of the things, there's a number of alchemical interns that have gone missing along with the artifact from Aether Academy, and I've got them spammed here. But we already have an illustration of Armand and Juliet elsewhere in the book. After we finish the artwork for the force that we're working on, and I resolve Professor Carter. And then we'll be going back and we'll be replacing these 4 characters here. We'll replace these 4 characters with new illustrations. But I only have 2 alchemist tokens currently in the NPC and monster deck. So although these 4 other these 4 interns aren't actually important to the story, depending on what kind of a plot hook you're using. Juliet and Armand are actually spies that are working for the Council 12 to gather information about the materials and exotic materials and processes that the necromancers are using inside the Manifest Zone. So these 2 know more than anyone else. So they're the ones I have tokens for. But I need to have a total of 6 interns that have gone missing from Aether Academy. So I'm going to replace these 4 with new token, with new characters, but I'm still in the process of doing that. So for now, we're going to continue working on the Carnwood Rot Forest, and then on the side, as I had mentioned, I'm working on Professor Carter's profile image there. There's 6 different plot hooks in this adventure. And there's a default plot hook where the adventure in general is framed around as your decision. But if you're going to drop this adventure into an ongoing campaign, there's a number of notable factions that are interested in the events of Crystals of Mabar. So we have separate plot lines for different factions, and if you incorporate them, then you get different resources, and you get different rewards for working with these alternate factions. And if the DM reads the material before running the adventure, you'll have tips and clues about how to integrate the different factions and the different plot hooks that are happening inside the story to be antagonists or allies to the characters if the DM decides to include them as random variable NPCs that are running around inside of this environment. So a lot of potential fun there for people to be able to find different ways to make this adventure work. And each plot hook modifies some of the encounters that the characters can have when they get to different regions. And so it has replayability for professional DMs, which was important to me. I think the paid DM industry is obviously growing, so creating content that is entertaining to a professional DM that may have to run the adventure, like if they're looking for an adventure to run in Eberron, this is 7th and 8th level, so it's a decent mid-tier campaign. Like if you were to do a one-shot, an 8th level character has a lot of resources, hit points, and options available to them to make running a mid-level campaign pretty interesting. So I wanted to set this up to have that replayability. Like the default plot hook is that you're deputized by Fort Bastion to investigate reports of missing people in pop-up farming communities that are starting to dot the landscape after the end of the last war. A lot of unregistered communities that Carnath, the nation of Carnath, does not care if there are people settling in different regions within Carnath, as long as they are producing food and kids that are going to be inside the nation. They've just ended a hundreds of years war. Their population is severely corroded. They need new bodies, and they need food to help those bodies grow. So all these little quiet communities that are that are cropping up in farming, Ader's not asking any questions about where they're coming from, as long as they're sticking around and putting food back into the marketplace. So people go missing from these communities, and that's not unusual because they are relatively undocumented, and a number of them are there because they're refugees from the now disappeared Sire. And where else are you going to go? Wherever you can go. If you aren't dead at the end of the war, you got to find a place to settle. And for hundreds of thousands of Sirens that, or maybe only tens of thousands of Sirens that weren't actually in Sire on the day of mourning, they have no home to go back to now. So they have to settle somewhere. And Carnath is a direct neighbor to the north of Sire, so it's natural that if they were off sides when the event occurred, that they're already in Carnath, let's just lay low. And so these little farming communities are cropping up to provide grain and vegetables to the larger population. But the Carnwood is famous for being haunted. So if people are going missing, it's Blair Witch shit that's probably happening. And for the most part, law enforcement's like, you shouldn't be living near the Carnwood. So that's on you. But if there enough complaints come in, it's like, ugh. So they have to deal with it because there's too many complaints. So instead of actually sending an actual sheriff to go resolve the situation, they deputize your characters to go look into it for them and give you a badge and some just loose information about what's going on. And so your characters then have the authority with the badge to ask any questions that they want of any of the villagers, since they requested the characters to show up and ask questions. That sets them off on a good foot to be able to get into a good circumstance of sympathizing with the villagers that they encounter, and sets them up that if undead were to kill all the villagers in that community, to galvanize the characters to want to seek vengeance for them if they aren't otherwise already convinced to engage in the plot content. One of the alternate plot hooks is that family or friends of yours found this community to settle in, and so if the place needs somewhere to lay low or wants to retire from adventuring or just to disengage, they're willing to help set them up with a homestead and a farmhouse and fields to help farm the crops, become part of the team. So if the character, for whatever reasons, if the characters take them up on this, whether they're laying low or looking at retirement options or just wanted, as just visiting because they haven't forever and they keep getting letters, and then the letters mysteriously stop, so they become concerned. Any of those circumstances are fine. The characters arrive in town, and one of two, and ideally, what happens is they find that the town has been slaughtered by undead already, and that there are still some undead that are straggling about to launch them into a combat objective. But the team's their friends and family are missing. So evidence leads to where the undead came from. It's the only clue that the team has. So they follow the undead into the forest, find the manifest zone, and find an active operation of harvesting material. And if the characters are able to poke around, they'll find that their allies have been taken captive for sacrifice. And so the characters can save them from being sacrificed and fight the undead bad. Yeah, so that's but the Aether Academy plotline is find the artifact that the necromancers are using to create the necrotic manifest zone, and record evidence of their wrongdoings, and then return the artifact to Aether Academy. I'm going to grab this. I think I'm going to merge these down, actually. Hold on. I really shouldn't merge those down. I want to merge these down really bad, but I'm not going to. I want to, but I won't. I'm going to, what I want to do is shorten this this branch, this trunk. I feel like I want to bring it down like this. I like that bend better. So maybe I can. Cool. Transform. Because although I'm ignoring the borders of the illustration right now, there are borders. This is the frame that I have to work inside of, and I can't have the art interrupting the text. So the artwork is going. We have this masking layer here that we use to cover up the illustration in the background behind the text of the adventure. Like that. but I'm playing outside of those lines because hopefully it'll just end up being a fun composition on its own. So I won't have to, so I can, you know, use it elsewhere or offer it a stock art or who knows. But so currently I don't care that this is pushing off into the text space. There we go. So the manifest zone, the plane of Mabar is necrosis, death, darkness, and things that go bump in the dark. And so a powerful enough manifest zone will destroy the environment the zone is manifested inside of. In this case, the manifest zone is located inside Carnwood Forest. It's like an old growth tree forest, like pines and various conifers for hundreds of miles. And yeah, that feels pretty good. Let's get this little stump like that. And I feel like there's two conversations that's flowing here real quick. So I want to move into, just look at the artwork real fast. What we're doing is, so we're making this rotten forest here. It's all rotting away because the process of the manifest zone is destroying the natural environment and slowly replacing it with a unnatural planar environment of Mabar. The manifest zone is so powerful that it will eventually actually just be a gateway in and out. It'll just basically be a transition zone between Mabar and Eberron. So it's powerful magic. It's terraforming the Carnwood Forest into this necrotic swamp. So that's the theme of the illustration is this necrotic forest idea. And so when I'm making the composition here, I want to have the most detail in the foreground. So I basically set a bar for this is the maximum amount of detail and intricacy in any image, in any objects inside the illustration. So as I move away from the camera, I can back off on the detail and I can paste that detail further and further back so that we're establishing a point of reference for what's the details on this, and then from there we just erode them as we move. We erode them as we move further back in the illustration as it becomes more and more obscure by this necrotic fog that fills the region. In game, your characters have obscured vision, so like at no point in the manifest zone are you able to really see more than 40 feet away. But the undead that are manifesting, there's a bunch of unmarked graves in the region around where the manifest zone is located, because there used to be a Black Ops research facility to explore potential military usage of necrotic energies, and it led to a whole bunch of people being dead. So they didn't want to have on the books officially that they're killing people, so they have all these unmarked mass graves all throughout the region. And as the energies of undeath continue to permeate the region, these unmarked mass graves are digging up and spitting out undead. So they're roaming the environments, and their vision isn't obscured by the mist at all. So while you can only see 40 feet away, they can see hundreds of feet away. They can just, especially if you're carrying a torch, because it's dark in here. So having a torch to help illuminate stuff, especially at night, is going to be critical, which makes you sitting targets for the undead to basically come and attack at you. So your characters, while you're moving through the manifest zone, basically have a flotilla of a visible space that has a 40-foot radius, and that's it. Things are lightly obscured after 20. After 20 feet, it's lightly obscured, and after 40 feet, you can't see anything at all. So it's very claustrophobic, but it makes it easy for the DM to be able to drop little vignettes, like little forests, like little piles of scrub, or like broken, like cemetery stones, or like a dilapidated gazebo, or rotting tree copes. It's easy to just drop these little vignette maps into the gray wastes of the manifest zone. And in that sense, the character can, the DM can just basically narrate things occurring as the characters are looking for where the dungeon where the artifact is located inside of the manifest zone. There. This feels really good. I'm enjoying these. I'm gonna do like that. Stick up like that. I'll break these off here. So we have a number of prepared encounters that happen throughout the adventure at different points of interest, and then we have random encounters, which is just however often, depending on where you're at, X amount of time passes, make a random roll, and depending on where you're at, the result of the die roll equals this type of an encounter occurs or not. And then there's optional encounters, which have the complexity of prepared encounters, but aren't necessary for the adventure. But if the DM is looking to add additional content to extend the duration of after reading the adventure, I think it'd be cool to have X, Y, or Z inserted in here. Well, we provide you with X, Y, and Z to insert. So you can pick and choose how much content the characters actually engage with. And most of the content in the adventure is just optional. Like, here's the basic. We provide you the basic framework of how the adventure works, and provide the default plot hook that uses all of the content, so you can see how it can all flow smoothly together. And then in the appendices at the back of the book, it's showing how these alternate plot hooks can change that narrative or reduce the amount of time. Like, you can run a one-shot with the Ader Academy Requisitions plot hook and the Council of 12 Reclamation plot hook. Both of those are designed to teleport your characters directly into the final dungeon, so that you can do like a 4-hour romper stomp and kill the necromancers, capture the artifact, and then teleport out to go back home, and your one-shot's done. But if you want to add it to a campaign, there's a lot of the detail, like all the extra padding, like like you don't even need the village if you're doing a one-shot romper stomp. Like, all that content is worthless. But if you're adding this to an extended campaign where you want to investigate and take multiple long rests and make the Carnwood a center point of interest for your ongoing campaign, then adding as much of the additional optional content that we include in here just helps add to the experience of helping make it part of your campaign. Which I question if enough time is spent on various adventures. Like, they're very, like, the ones that WotC produce are very, kind of vignette, like, this is your campaign, enjoy it. But, like, how do you want to fold those events into the scale of a larger campaign that might be taking your characters to 20th level eventually? This resolves at level 8, but further back in the book, in the appendix, like, how to use this adventure, expanding the campaign, we talk about rolling all the way up through 20th level, finding other artifacts that lead to other manifest zones that, if the character collects them all, can potentially reshape how the planes of existence work at all. But all these other different factions are aware of these artifacts as well. Like, the Gatekeepers is one of the plot lines, and if the Gatekeepers find out that there's different artifacts like this for each manifest zone, the Gatekeepers are going to want to have those for themselves, because they're the ones that are in charge of keeping reality from being destroyed. So you could run a 20-level campaign. If you're working for the Gatekeepers, you could run a 20-level campaign collecting all of these different artifacts, and then you could use, like, the Council of 12 plot hook as rivals that are racing your characters to find all of the artifacts, and whoever ends up with the most has the most control. But you can't, unless you have all 13 of them, you can't actually change the fabric of reality. So there could be a standoff at some point where like you have 7 of the artifacts that you're adventuring, but there's 2 other factions that have the other remaining 6 divided between each other. So there's 3 factions that can be competing for control over this. So there's a lot of really neat ways you can blend these things together to create an ongoing campaign for your characters. If you start this at 7th, 8th level, then you could potentially rock it all the way through to 20th level using this theme. There's not enough content in here for you to do that, obviously, but the theme gets set up for you to be able to move with. So I just blended, foolishly perhaps, the background with the foreground, and that is foolish because I want to break that off and then drop it in front of the trees, because this is going to become ground scrub. But so getting that out of the way, we have the original sketch of the tree in the background, and then we have the foreground boulder lines that we inserted. But I don't necessarily want to get rid of the background, so I'm going to erase. I'm going to cut at it a little bit here and thin it up. But anywhere I see a branch that I like, I'm going to leave it, and we're going to merge it into the document and then integrate it. It's like I like that. I don't need that. Actually, I do like that. I'm going to keep that. Brr! Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Drop down here. Clean up some of those scuzz. Yeah, we can clean that up. I like this branch though. I want to keep that. So we're going to keep that, and we're going to mess with it. Good. So there, we can merge this down. I'm just using a smudge tool to extend it because there's this necrotic haze that hangs in the air that's preventing sunlight from reaching the region. The sunlight would destroy all the unnatural plants that are growing in the area, and a lot of undead are light sensitive, so they don't want sunlight at all. So the manifest zone is accommodating them by creating all this necrotic fog that not only rots any vegetation that remains inside of it, but again it blocks the light, so that the fungus and spores and stuff that will replace them, like the native fauna to Mabar, will have a chance to thrive. So what I'm doing is I'm doing the outlines like this, these silhouettes, because we've got a lot of silhouettes. So it's a forest. So as I add in the other trees in the background, we'll be able to at first do a basic layer like this, where everything has the same level of darkness. But the ones that are further back in the fog, we can use opacity and layering of semi-transparent color layers to push them further back into what will be the fog of this environment. But for now, we're creating a common language, basically how do we word that? A signature to how these trees look. So I want to create them all the same way. That's my timer. Hey, it's a cool little tree. Let's grab this. Thin that down. So I do artwork like this Monday through Fridays in the morning, and then I do game design on Mondays and Thursday nights and Tuesday, Friday lunches. During lunchtime, currently I'm going through the new Dark Sun Unearthed Arcana subclass options, and I'm converting them to the color mana spell point variant rule system that we published on DMsGuild to add the color magic system from Magic the Gathering into Dungeons and Dragons. And I use color mana when in Eberron. I think it's great. Regardless of it being a Magic the Gathering IP and Eberron being a completely different IP, I think the color mana magic paradigm in general is superior to the Vancian magic 8 schools of magic as presented in D&D, which is traditional. Wizards of the Coast really wanted to keep wanted to preserve the legacy of what D&D was with the Vancian magic spell slot system and the 8 schools of magic paradigm. But I think color mana is a superior system because it's literally its color. It's literal colors. Like when you visualize what does divination magic look like to you when you use it, and each DM can of course have their own flavor, and each player can have their own flavor about how their character uses divination magic, not divine magic of the gods, divination magic of like discovering knowledge and discovering secrets. Well, in the MTG system, divination magic is blue. So when a divination character is utilizing divination magic, they would have like a blue halo. Or the object that they're studying would have a blue radiance, or they would be creating a blue sensor for like a scry spell to investigate a remote, like while they're doing remote viewing or whatever. But the color is literally baked into the narrative of the magic that you're using. So in that sense, I think color magic is a really superior system. I don't know why I was talking about that. It came up for some stupid reason, and so I went on a tangent. I can't remember. If anyone out there knows what the hell I was talking about, drop in the comments down below so I can catch the thread. But I'll pick up the topic of conversation again. I feel like I just woke up in the middle of a conversation. I have no idea what I was talking about. But that's the space that we want to get into. When I get to a space where I can forget about what the fuck is going on around me, that means that the pixels are flowing pretty cleanly. Oh, that's right. Unearthed Arcana, Dark Sun, right. I'm converting the Dark Sun subclasses that Wizards has in the Unearthed Arcana playtest document. I'm converting them over to the color mana system so that they could be used in color campaigns. And I was saying that I've been using color mana for 7 years now in my campaigns. I first started publishing those books on the DMsGuild back in 2018. They were the initial books that I had created. And it was the inspiration for me getting started on DMsGuild in the first place, because I was so excited about the idea that Ravnica and Strixhaven and Theros campaign settings would be utilizing the color mana paradigm, because those are Magic the Gathering settings being brought into D&D, but they didn't. When they import them, just like how you would not have spell slots in Magic the Gathering if you're playing a Forgotten Realm card set, the same philosophy was, well, if you're playing Ravnica in Dungeons and Dragons, you're going to use the Dungeons and Dragons magic system. So they converted the MTG settings into the vanilla D&D paradigm, which is, I think, a real shame. Back in 3rd edition, if they were creating a new setting or concept, they would create a whole book of mechanics about how different things operated. Like, they've created alternate magic systems for the sake of like just having them, as additional content to consume. But I think they found that offering a whole bunch of splat content like that, additional ideas, fractured the base, and it was difficult. If they didn't drive Curse of Strahd as like an campaign, then you would have a couple people using Ravnica and Ravenloft, and then that's it. So a Ravenloft book would make no sense. But the more people that play Curse of Strahd, the more sense a Ravenloft expansion makes sense. But you don't have to use any new mechanics to run Curse of Strahd. What is going on? Merge down, please. Thank you. Now we merge down. And now we can roll. So adding a whole with the but that that's a lot of wasted design time that maybe not a lot of people are going to appreciate. And if they do appreciate it, they're just breaking their base up. It's like, well, yeah, I'm a Ravenloft guy, so I don't care about Dark Sun, right? So that's why they'll do like these little vignette books, like these little one-shot book setting ideas. That for those that love that campaign setting, probably already has all of these 2nd, 3rd, and 4th edition content from it. They just need a primer and an example of utilizing that idea in 5e, and that's, I think, where we're getting like these Spelljammer's Adventures and Space box sets, and the Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, and the single books for like Strixhaven being framed as an adventure, where Theros and Ravnica were themed as a setting. If you notice that there was an adventure in each of them, but it was primarily a setting, and then there was an adventure. And they did the same thing with Spelljammer. But you saw in Strixhaven was primarily an adventure that had a really thorough background and setting built up to make that adventure work. So you can see a shifting in philosophies there of how they're designing additional content. And it's largely criticized by people that have been around for more than 5th edition, because we've seen how much money that both TSR and WotC were willing to invest into making something look super cool and be really well fleshed out. That it takes a lot of design and playtesting and editing and quality assurance to do these different mechanical systems. And that's they're laying off people, not hiring on. They're not staffing up, they're laying off. So they're not interested in bringing on board a bunch of designers that will run a base-breaking campaign setting that will only fracture or fractionalize, I should say, their consumers. So that is like, from a shareholder profit-driven perspective, I can understand the strategies that WotC is using. They make perfect sense from a dollar perspective. But since they're never going to make $200 million in a day, like Magic the Gathering would, it would be nice if they'd be willing to just set up an allowance and basically have a steward team that can afford to be innovative and have cool ideas and mess around with how the 5e game engine works and what kind of stories you can tell with D&D, because it's never going to make the money that Wizards wants. They may as well as just write it off altogether as a loss and just let them fuck around and play the game. Just let them play at being designers and making stuff using the 5e game engine, so that we can have more interesting ideas and more variety, so that Wizards can remain the zeitgeist or the center of gravity of the culture around D&D, because they're losing that lead. The more they outsource that to D&D Beyond, the more they're saying, don't pay attention to what we say, pay attention to what other people are doing with our game. That's who we want you to spend your money on. Because they're going to get a cut of it, so it's easy and lazy, but every time you let somebody else do something for you, that is you actively voting against doing things yourself. And it's just like anyone that's been on an iron lung that had lung injuries, like with fire and stuff. they have this thing called the Iron Lung, which is basically a breathalyzer. It basically breathes for you, and your body apparently falls in love with the idea of not having to expend energy breathing because it burns calories, and your body is designed to either maintain calories or find ways to get more calories. That's the only purpose of your body is caloric consumption and expenditure. So anything that you can give it that's going to make it spend less energy or get more calories is something your body is going to fall in love with, which is why not doing anything and consuming high fat, high sugar content is something that is a risk to third world countries that have conquered resources. And so wizards would naturally not want to expend resources on these, again, base dividing ideas. But if they don't care about making money, they wouldn't care if the audience was split. They'd be like, whatever, we're just putting out ideas out here. Use whatever you want, leave the rest. Which is hilarious because that was something that a Magic the Gathering executive had said about the amount of content that they're putting out for Magic the Gathering now. But they want Magic the Gathering to make tons of money. It's just that there's no real deep narrative model that goes on in making Magic the Gathering work. It's just card sets, and each game is an isolated instance that doesn't have long-term ramifications on your ability to play Magic the Gathering like a campaign does when you're making characters. So the philosophies behind how the games work in general is completely opposed. Like they do not mesh at all. So the philosophies that can drive forward selling cards in Magic the Gathering are not effective strategies for role-playing games. And if they actually had gamers as executives, they would understand this and save themselves a stupid amount of money. But because their hobby is making money, they don't understand the role-playing game or the MTG community. The crossovers that they're doing with Magic the Gathering and the universe and the expanded universes ideas, while a lot of diehard MTG fans hate the loss of the Magic narrative, it still exists. It's just they're making so much money making collector card sets. It doesn't even matter if the cards are good to play or not. They're making Magic the Gathering like Final Fantasy Magic the Gathering. That's like Funko Pop, like those big bobblehead dolls. That's headquartered here in Seattle as well, by the way. But those Funko Pop dolls, that's effectively what they're basically collector items for IPs that you like, and that's what Magic the Gathering is becoming. These card sets like Final Fantasy specifically that I've been mentioning repeatedly, but like Fortnite and Warhammer and blah blah blah. These are collector sets. These are for fanboys. They aren't for the quality of the game. The quality of the game is in this Dominaria, Ravnica, Theros environment that has a narrative we already know with mechanics we're familiar with. But the business model of Magic the Gathering is partially of collecting, of being a collector. These cards get really fucking expensive because of this limited release option. So they become collector items. As designed, they are collectible cards. And they have increasing value over time. D&D's not like that. I think I'm done with this. Again, this tree is the closest tree to the camera, so I'm putting the most amount of detail into it. I will not need to be the other trees that are further back in the composition won't need this level of detail. But it's front loading the details to convince your eye that the details are there. That's the trick. Once your eye believes what these things are, like gets what you're doing. As you move further back in the piece and less details are apparent, your eye's just going to naturally kind of look at this one, like when it's looking at other trees here as we move further back, like back here, there's not going to be hardly any detail compared to what this tree is, but you can slide your eye back and forth and get it. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I see what's going on here. This tree in the haze is like this tree here in the foreground, so you're going to just imagine details that I don't even have to draw. And that's the magic behind artwork, the illusion of illustration. So on Tuesdays and Thursday afternoons, I do game design, and we're currently translating the Dark Sun setting subclasses into the color magic paradigm, because I suspect, I feel like I want to mess around with green, with like the color balances. Like Dark Sun is such a rotted, destroyed world. It's post-apocalypse basically. So I feel like there should be a shortage of green magic because the environment got destroyed. But I'm not sure. I haven't figured it out. We're still going through the subclasses to see how they play and what colors they naturally align with. Though I was right about Preserver Druids being white and green magic. The bonus spell list demonstrated that that's their devotion, their assumed devotion. And although you can make a black-blue druid, it'll be difficult for you to convert them, all their spells from their natural green space into black and blue. But you could do it if you wanted to. That's a way you could build your character. That's the flexibility of the color magic system. So on Tuesdays and Fridays, I do game design, and we're translating Dark Sun into color mana, and then on Mondays and Thursday nights, including tonight, we are working on the Bastion campaigns system. So that is going along really well. Right now, we're working on siege warfare and sabotaging facilities, and with any luck, we'll get that finished tonight on stream. That's going to be at 6 o'clock Seattle time this evening. Which is about a little bit more than about 10 and a half hours away. So I'm going to stream here for probably another hour or so, and then I'm going to go spend time with family and friends for the holiday, and then tonight I'm going to be back in the saddle here, and we'll continue working on the Bastion campaign system. Bastion Campaigns is going to be the next book that I publish after this adventure publishes. So the work process is I design a book, I play test it. If it does well, then we flesh it out and hire an editor for the wordsmithing and organize the book so that it can be a PDF, right now on DMsGuild, but who knows where I'll be in the future. But for now, I'm publishing D&D 5e stuff, so I'm doing it on the DMsGuild. And just being really nitpicky about how these branches sit. But yeah, we're almost done with the preliminary designs for the Bastion campaign. I don't like some of the wording that we've been using, so I'm going to have to work on that. But right now, we're hammering down the siege warfare resolution and how to sabotage facilities inside of individual bastions or settlements. And once we get done with that, then we'll move to Bastion events and complications, and then from there the initial the first draft of the book will actually be like the mechanics of the book will be done. The first draft is not done because we need to add examples of play for each of them and how the system operates for DMs to have an easier time integrating the mechanics into their own campaigns if they wanted to. So we're a far way away from actually being ready for publishing that book. But by the time this adventure has all of its illustrations done and we publish it, we will be in a position to be able to move full tilt with bashing campaigns. Yep. And the color mana system, we'll be updating that for 2024 after, or rather we'll be doing the mechanical design work and updates for the text to those books on Mondays and Thursday nights. Once this is done and we begin the bashing campaign artwork in the mornings, we'll shift focus in the evenings to rebuilding the color mana spell point variant rule books. That looks good. That looks good. I like this. This is a nice, wilty, ugly, yucky, blicky, dying tree. It's gonna die. It knows it. It's fine. It's fine. So let's take this. Let's take this rough environment here, and first off, stop collapsing stuff, Kearney. There. That goes away. Oh. Hello there. There we go. Merge down. We already have this little bumpity texture going on here, which will eventually get turned into bark. We'll be doing after we do the silhouettes for all the trees and all of the different levels of resolution and detail through the forest. Once we have all that, we'll then come back through and we'll add detail to this tree, and again, the most detail in the foreground, so that in the end we won't have to do any like the trees back here, we won't have to do any detail on them because they're too faded, they're too background, and that corrosion of detail. The way to tell when something is closer or further away from you in an illustration is size. Bigger things are closer. More detail, the closer that you are. Saturation, the further away something is, typically the less saturated it is. Those are the three primary things: size, detail, and saturation. Those three aspects. Use any one of those three things, and it'll imply that the thing with less is further away from the cat. Even if it's the same size and the same level of detail, if it has less saturation, it's going to recede into the background naturally. So having all three of them working together, you can create a lot of different language for creating artificial depth inside of your illustration. Then we have this foreground stuff that's going on. I don't really know what's going on with it yet, so that's what we're working on now. I'm going to take this, I'm going to bring it down here like that. And I feel like I want to mess around a little bit. No, I need to leave that where it was, like that. But I do want to ground muck. I'm going to duplicate that layer because I want to bolden it. Merge down, then duplicate it, and then merge it down. this is like a little a break in your field of vision along the ground is going to help push anything beyond this ridge line here. Like this line here, we have this line going here that is going to be a physical break in perspective, in depth. So this tree is the closest. These are the two next closest, and then we have this little hop here, this little ridge line that drops past that into forest that's further back. So by having breaks in the ground and like hills and changes in elevation, elevation along the ground, that helps create additional space inside the composition for you to have more layers of forest or whatever environment it is that you're working with. You can also use that in cityscapes and in action scenes by breaking, by creating ridges, drops, and changes in elevation. It helps cheat in more space in your piece than you might have otherwise had. It also lets you mix the elevation of the element inside the composition along with its size. So we were talking about pushing things back by reducing their size. You can also change the elevation of that thing's position to change the pitch of the camera in the composition. It's a really fun technique to mess around with just the general design space that you're working with. Sorry if I'm using a lot of vague terms. But yeah, that's the process. So I'm gonna fold this up for now, recognizing that ridge line. Now we got things that exist beyond it. Yeah. So okay, great. So without pontificating too far about it, right? We have this ground scrub stuff to do, but I think let's mess around with that for a few. Let's see where that can take us. We're going to use I want to use a darker green here for ground scrub. So initially we're just going to do this. Grab this here. Put it behind the tree. Tree's in the middle. Got some ground scrub in the front, tree in the middle, and then we have more ground scrub in the back. So I'm going to get rid of the back layer for now and just focus on the foreground. Initially, I'm just going to go over this stuff. That. Those lines a little bit. Initially, I'm just taking the color that we added and just smudging. It's literally just smudging it into the terrain, blending the sketch that I had into. Into this little patch that we're building. Because those bold lines just sitting there seem silly. They're like crude sketches. So we're trying to refine the material from being sketches into interesting flora options. So for now, we're just creating the space that these things are existing on as a way to basically ground and root the tree. And for now, it doesn't have to be super detailed. Again, we'll go back through with detail, but I do want to have the language established, like what it is that we're looking at here. So, this little patch of reeds resolved. Smudge that out so it doesn't have any obvious beginnings or ends. Just fades away. There we go. And I'll do the same thing here. This is basically the same process I go through all the different Bob Ross style paintings I do. I love doing environmental paintings. Bob Ross was, I used to watch the first, I would watch all the Bob Ross episodes on Saturday mornings, and those were always like first releases. They'd be like first time ever aired on PBS would be Saturday mornings, like at 7 o'clock in the morning. And as a 5-year-old kid, I'd be playing Legos in the family room, watching Bob Ross while I waited for Saturday morning cartoons to actually start. But Bob was a quiet, gentle voice, and I didn't want to make a lot of noise because I would get up super early to start playing with toys. And Legos would keep me occupied for hours. I'd just build. It was a quiet, non-intrusive task that would allow me to create things, and then I would destroy them. I'd play with them. Legos are awesome, man. You basically make your own toys. You play with them for as long as you want them. Then you destroy them and replace them with new toys. So for a single-digit aged kid, that's amazing. Like Legos were my medium of imagination. Yeah, go ahead and use that, Legos. Go ahead and credit me for that. But if I wanted to play space adventures, I'd make space adventure themed stuff out of Legos. If I wanted to do like Excalibur fantasy stuff, I would do that. Just build the toys to be what, like when I was doing like pirate ship armadas, I would do that. I got into Mad Max for a while, so we'd make Mad Max truck convoys out of Legos, and we would destroy them. Mad Max style. That isn't bad for an initial bit. I want to trim these up a little bit here. This is a good start. Again, we work on these things in layers, so we're just doing some very initial placement, defining the shape of the trees, putting ground scrub placement around them just to set up the language of the composition. blend this all again. We're just doing it's just like Bob Ross. We're just using a vertical brush to swipe back and forth to blend the color into the canvas. It's all the techniques that I use here in Photoshop are the exact, are well, maybe not the exact same, but are inspired by and derivative from Joy of Painting techniques. Like I said, I've been watching Bob Ross since I was 5, so I'm pretty familiar with his techniques. But I don't see any colors, so I can't actually mix colors on canvas, and I can't tell if they look right or not. But here digitally, I've got my RGB slider in the upper right-hand corner. This is all the color vision that I need in the upper right hand. Most you'll see from various professional artists and tutorial streamers that the color isn't what's actually important. It's the contrast. It's the saturation and contrast. So I can identify saturation and contrast and the color block over here in the RGB, but since all I have is black and white vision, my sense of contrast and grayscale is pretty sharp. It's the only tool I have in color vision. So I'm really good at being able to see contrasting elements. So I'll just do photo references for the colors that I want to use, and otherwise just use art techniques to create, to make the composition work. Sorry, I'm kind of ran out of speed in that conversation there. There we go. I want to take this whole thing, I want to flatten it a bit. There. See, just smudging it in makes it already feel like it's in a misty region. There we go. Yeah, I like how that looks. It feels good. And again, once we get done with all the silhouettes and placements, we'll come back through and we'll actually, like, I'll do like little weird Mabar and floret sort of stuff. It'll be cool. And then here in the background, I have no idea what you're doing back here, Chief. What is this all about? Let's put it back in this ridge line we were talking about. Interesting. I didn't expect the little white marks. That was interesting. Okay, cool. That's gonna be like that. Take this. Drop that down a smidge. We'll take this. Raise that up a smidge. We'll take this. I don't know what that is yet. It's going to end up being something. I don't technically have to worry about it yet. Right now, we're going back over to this tree. So, back in this space here. I'm going to go here. I'm going to grab that. I'm going to cut that free. Good. So that stays like that. Close that one up for now. Grab that color again. I'm going to cut, paste this as a foreground object. That'll be a neat, like, little rock ridge of some sort. And then we have another tree that's going to be behind it. So I like that. Push this one over here a smidge. Yes, that's gonna look really, really good when we get that in there. Okay, cool. So that's going to sit there like that, and let's see. Let's drop that one away for now. Here's our foreground ridge. We're going to start working on, let's see, what we want to do is drop the opacity on that tree sketch, and then add another layer in. Add a branch. I'm going to disable the layer mask again. Disable. Back to here. Start adding some depth here. That tree feels like it's too healthy. I think I want to break it a bit. Oh, I kind of like that. Let's just go with that splay. Like that. This necrotic forest is basically just rotting out the structure of the trees, so they're wilting, right? There, we'll go like that. See, that seems too strong. So we'll go like that. Nice. Maybe like that. There we go. In, and you can see here how the trees that are further back, how we won't need to have nearly as much detail, since we have these foreground trees that are going to be basically creating all these little subframes. Like here's a little border frame inside this space here, and we have like this little knot of branches that are going on over here, and you're gonna have this interesting little space in between these two trees bending away from each other. But there's this little gate spot inside here. So all these little mesh spots that have their own little frames in them, they become little windows into this environment, and they're all blending together really, really well right now. I'm liking how this is composing. So we're going to start from just like we started at the front and work our way back to help establish detail. We're starting at the top and working our way down so we can see how delicate do we need to be. Like the maximum amount of delicate is going to be at the tips of these rotten branches and at the top of the spire. That's where it's going to be most needled. And as we move further down towards the trunk, it gets broader and more more volume. Like we'll know what an appropriate thickness for the trunk is up here based on how much branch is hanging off of it. Like would a thicker or thinner, like would a thicker trunk look too thick and marginalize the branches, or is the trunk too thin and it doesn't look like the branches, that it would be able to support the weight of the branches. So you always want to have enough trunk to support the weight of the branches that you're drawing in, but you don't want the trunk too thick, otherwise it just looks like a barrel with some sticks in it, you know? So it looks weird. So there's a balance point inside of here that you can find between those two. What's the word I'm looking for? Those two borders. Like, you can operate inside of that space. Like, that's too thin. It needs to be thicker. And the further up, like the further up I go, it has to be a cone. Even if it's a very subtle cone, it has to be a cone, because the more tree you have above, the stronger your base needs to be. I'm not wording good today. My brain's triggering that it's time to go because it's after 8 o'clock. Normally I would end by 8 o'clock, but it's a holiday here in America today, and I have the day off. See how this is getting too thick too fast? So I need to thin this. I need to keep this thinned down. I also then need to also thin up this branch here. So my brain is saying, hey, you are late. You need to go. And I'm like, no, it's a holiday. But my brain is fighting me over it because for literally for years, I'll do artwork in the morning like this and then go to my day job. And I have basically 7:50 is my end time for doing artwork so that I can gear up and go. But I don't have that today. My brain doesn't know, just like animals, my brain doesn't know about holidays. So I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing. Just gonna cut through those branches here just to make sure the trunk is right, and then I'll just draw the branches back in. Feels right so far. Yeah, I think that's gonna work. Let's keep building the comp. See, it's a little thin here, so I need to thicken that up. There. Now it's looking thin down here, so I need to thicken this here. Yeah, it feels pretty stable. Cool. Now we can go in and figure out the branches. Branches actually feel a little thick. I think this branch here has a little bit too much volume for where it's at, so I'm going to just resize it. Yeah, that seems more tolerable for the weight. We're either working on environments, characters, items, monsters. There's a wide variety of art assets that are needed to create a Dungeons and Dragons adventure. Not to mention like all the maps and the playboards and stuff that the characters actually like move around inside the dungeon. There's a lot of different pieces that go on in making an adventure. So much more than what a simple character option supplement would require. So this has by far been the most complex and difficult product to design yet. And it's my first, so obviously I'm going to do everything wrong. And learn my mistakes along the way so that when I do another one, you know, it'll run better. But I cannot scoff at the amount of time it takes to make good maps, and how important those maps are for the language of the adventure that you're building. And it's worth it though, because maps consume so much visual asset space inside of the PDF that the amount of illustrations, like for the 180 pages worth of adventure that you get here, there's a surprisingly small amount of illustrations that I need to do, because mostly it's map and creature tokens that is the bulk majority of visual elements that I need for the adventure to look good on page, which is a massive blessing. Yeah, I just got to make sure that just like with the trunk has to taper properly from the ground upward, the branches have to also taper so that the further edges aren't thicker or more bulky than towards the trunk, and that the branches look like they would be able to hold the amount of weight. Like if I try to make this much branch and stick it on this small little junction point, that's going to feel unnatural. Not only is it too high in the tree to have such a hyperextended branch, but it would be outweighing the material below it, so it would just snap, right? So the tree naturally tapers off as it grows in size. Deciduous trees that fluff out with leaves, they're deceptive because they have these long snaking branches. Like a deciduous tree will have long snaking branches that go like this, that creep their way up and then become smaller and smaller as they get higher and higher up, because their weight can't hold them further up here. But the end result is having this fluffiness here because all of the branches are reaching up towards the sky. Conifer trees are different. Conifer trees are basically a cone, which is how they got their name. And the way that their strategy is that as rain comes down, it's going to hit along this cascading stair step of different of branches that the water will have to filter through, and so it can collect all the resources on the way down. Same thing with sunshine. Sunshine rains down just like water does. So the conifer tree is built this way, so it's going to have really small, at the top it's going to have really small branches, as opposed to the bottom it's going to have these different layers, like this grid of needles to collect all this rain that comes down. Like So again, to look at the deciduous trees design is similarly, it's thicker at the bottom than it is at the top, and it's got thicker branches at the bottom than it does at the top. But they're not designed, but all these are designed to curve and lift upward again. So these are going to be short branches. These larger ones are going to can grow out and snake like this, and then it'll get smaller. So it's similar to the conifer tree was, except that all the branches are kind of reaching upward and extending outward to create a large canopy, a large space, but more water passes through to get to the ground below. So that's the difference in design ideals. Towards the edge of the forest, there's more deciduous trees. As we get further and further into the Carnwood, it becomes more and more conifer. So once we actually get to the manifest zone itself, it's largely just conifer trees. I guess that was a full stop. There you go. That was the idea. Forest composition. That's what we were talking about there. Smooth jazz. This. I'm going to break it. No, I can't do that. I can't handle the weight. It's got to go. There, like that. I might work on this. I'm going to be here till 9. I've got 40 more minutes, and then my day will be over. But then I'll be back online tonight to continue working on the Bastion campaign. That'll be at 6 o'clock Seattle time, which is about 9 hours from now. A little less than 9 hours. So we'll be able to get this tree and at least this tree, if not its neighbor, done with the time that we have left in our session today. But I'll be back tomorrow morning and we'll continue with it. Some art pieces I do online, some I don't. This environmental work, environment art tends to be a lot of fun. It's really easy to do. Like it doesn't require a lot of thinking. Once once you have an idea of where you're going, the less you think, the better off you're going to be. So this is a fun sort of piece for me to do on a stream like this, because it allows me to ramble about shit without me having to worry about, without having to worry about worrying about something. There we go. We found that. Nice. Okay, so I want to make sure I have more of these hanging off. See, that's a little bit too thin. There we go. again, these are really far into the foreground, so we want to add the most amount of detail to these so that when your eye starts drifting further back into the composition, it's going to it'll do pattern recognition that this is a tree, so are those. This has a lot of detail. Those trees back there should probably have that detail, but I can't see them because they're too far away. Your eye will do that work for you. There, good. So that feels a little thick, right? I'm gonna thin that down a little bit. Like that. Good. This one up. Thicken this one up. Droopy. Good. A little sloppy, but we'll be able to clean that up once we start working into details. We'll be able to clean up these branches a little bit better. We have the initial sketch, and then we have the first layer that we do detail color over of these silhouettes. And once we have all the silhouettes in the composition resolved, then we go back through and we add detail to the silhouettes, like bark and texture and shit. From the wind. I'm gonna hit save. Something just clicked in my brain that I need to save. Looking forward to continuing with Bastion campaigns tonight. I'm really enjoying the geopolitical 5e game design. It's super fun. I like that the trade order can be used to create a supply chain for army operations by expending resources to extend the range of trade that you have with that mobile unit. That's I think that's a really good solution. I don't necessarily like how we have it written up currently in the document. That's still a work in progress, but the mechanics, the idea of it is really sound. So I'm really happy about. I feel like I want to break this off. Something uneven about that. Extend that down to here. Like that. Yeah, I had already been working on a comprehensive geopolitical system for 5e. It was going to be called In Command of Armies, Guilds, and Kingdoms. So it was basically creating a singular 5e mechanical structure that could be used for characters to command armies, guilds, and kingdoms. So kingdoms as in settlements, guilds as in organizations, and armies as in, well, armies or fleets or whatever. But it uses the same framework regardless of what sort of a structure it is that the characters are in command of. And that was something we'd actually put a couple of years worth of work into. And then once 2024 was announced, we were just starting to get we'd already published a Spelljammer book, which came out of those command mechanics for our fleet combat. And I was already gearing up to start building the Guilds and Kingdoms aspect. But then they announced the Bastion system for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition in the 2024 DMG. And it's like, oh, awesome, they're attempting domain mechanics. That's great. And then once we actually saw what they gave us, it's like, okay, well, this is like a pale comparison to what it is that we could do for geopolitics using the 5e game engine, because the 5e is just a game engine. D&D is the actual game, and we're currently on 5th edition, but in the original box set BX Beckme style game, they had Dominion play. In 1st edition, they had Dominion play. In 2nd edition, they had Dominion play. In 3rd edition, they had Dominion play. They finally dropped it in 4th edition, and ignored it in 5th edition until the 2024 revisions, where they're adding a reason for people to buy the DMG, which is the Bastions. But it's a very shallow mechanical system that has a very limited scope of what it can actually do for your characters inside of a campaign. So we wanted to reintroduce the robust nature of geopolitical conflicts inside of a 5e game engine that we used to have in Beckme and all of the prior editions that got stripped out for Dungeon Punk. 3E was the beginning of the era of Dungeon Punk for D&D, where characters didn't really have an ongoing, like there was plots and stuff like that, but it wasn't, your characters weren't accumulating power to change the world. They were just they were saving the world superhero style, punching baddies and saving the day, which is fine. But in the older editions of the game, that behavior naturally led to your characters having rulership over, like an authority over a region, because you demonstrated your prowess and your might and earned basically title. But that added complexity got stripped away in 3E, 4E, 5E progressively to focus more on the individual character heroics, because all the supplements that they were selling were ways to modify your character. Spells, feats, magic stuff, classes, what were prestige classes at the time. It was all revolving around gear and abilities for your character, because those were so modular. It's honestly easy to build and sell supplements that focus specifically on character options. I've done many of them myself. I can attest to that. But it limits the scope of your campaign. There's narratives that people want that 5e, that WotC doesn't immediately provide an answer for. So like on Reddit or online in general, you're seeing people like, hey, I want to run XY, like I want to run this heist mission in D&D. And often the response is, we'll play a different game. It's like, no, you just need the right components in your game engine to make it work. 5e is a great resolution mechanic system, but it's focused primarily around dungeon punking. But the mechanics are strong, so you can take the 5e mechanics and export them into different types of campaign themes, or frames, I guess is what the Daggerheart kids would call them now. But I completely encourage that behavior. So the Bastion campaign system that we're developing in the evenings, that is breaks down. That is there to help take the 5e game engine mechanics and expand them to affect nations, continents, fleets. So that your adventuring can translate into big moves in the world economies, or the balance between the gods. And since we wanted to do that anyway, and I was already wanting to integrate that stuff like into Ravnica and to Theros specifically, as well as like Strixhaven and Eberron, all benefit from this sense of scale. So I wanted to bring that in to the 5e conversation. Like, you don't have to stop playing 5e to play a war game. You just need good rules for 5e warfare. And they're there if you care to find them. I just think the problem is most people haven't either been willing to put in the work needed to build out a good game engine using 5e for mass combat. They either haven't been willing to put in the work, or they've been more interested in creating their own IP and exporting the audience that is interested in that into a different game environment. So they end up making systems that aren't actually 5e game. They aren't fully compatible with 5e. They can be adjacent to 5e, but you can't just like use the same. I haven't seen any game systems where you can switch from mass combat to your characters and still use the same 5e game engine at both levels. That is what we endeavor to do, and so far so good. It's been working out really well. Okay, so that's our second wilted tree. I'm pretty happy with its composition. So now we're going to blend this faded background here. I'm going to erase the things that don't seem necessary, and keep those that do. Don't think I need that. I'm going to keep this offshoot branch. That just feels right. Erase that. Trim and clean it up. There, that feels pretty good. Now I can merge these down. And let's see the new things that we acquired. Let's start integrating them. There we go. to stump that a little bit. It's a little bit too strong for the amount of rot that's in the immediate vicinity. Thin that branch. I feel like this should wilt more though, so let's pre-transform and then buckle it. We're just doing some sculpting here. But this is the work, the painstaking, slow labor of detail. When somebody does a tutorial, a painting tutorial, and they have a background, they have a picture playing in the background where they go from a blank canvas to a completed composition in a 20-minute conversation. That's like 120 times sped up. These things take a ridiculous amount of time to do. All good illustrations do. That's me saying my illustrations are good. I know there's lack of modesty there. Hey, timely timer. I got 20 minutes left this morning. So I'm just gonna detail this tree and then probably start in on the next one, and then we'll be done with our time. We'll pick up tomorrow. And we just keep moving forward in the canvas until, or with the composition until it's done. And then we pick up a new piece and we start over again. Delete. Erase. 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 Smudge out. I'm using my magic wand tool here to select around all pixels on this layer. Because I merged two layers together, it's dirty, quote unquote. Like you can see like all this line in here, like this shade, those faded lines, those all need to be cleaned up and removed. So when I hit the magic wand, it'll highlight where all the pixels are at, so I don't have to see them. I can just see where the highlights are and then go erase where the highlights were. Nice. I really like how this is coming along. I mean, it's just rotten trees, whatever. But I like how they're sitting. It makes me feel really, really happy with this piece so far. Oops. There. Cool. Okay, that's another tree. I'm pretty happy with that one. So then let's go over here and start messing around with this. How are we doing on time? 45, still got about 15 minutes left. So yeah, we're about on target with where I expected it to be for a change. I am comically poor at predicting how long it would take to complete something, whether it's on a daily episode or the number of months to complete a piece. I am tragically wrong often, often taking a lot more time than I anticipated. So I'm thrilled when I'm not wrong. Just blending back and forth to blend us in to get that sort of brown haze going as a precursor for the rest of the piece. This will eventually be a rock, like a random boulder. I like boulders. I'm not worrying about color composition right now. I'm just working the shape, the form into the composition just to see how it sits, and we'll come back through and we'll find some good rock colors and add those. It seems like this is a viable thing to do. I'm gonna do that. There. Blips like that. Get this neat little texture space. I'm going to, I realize now that I am using, let's see, image, adjustment, contrast, duplicate, image rotation, mode, nope, adjustment, brightness, contrast, hue, saturation, black and white. That's not how I want to do this. Adjustment. Color balance. I want to flatten out the color. There. Adjustment, there's contrast, plunge the contrast, darken it up a smidge, okay, oops, yeah, that's better, okay, I'm gonna leave that like that. I'm letting it extend off the camp, off the into the text, to just because it just seems natural to push it out there. I'm gonna, and again, we're just gonna block it off with our framing, but we know it's here. Here we go. Okay, so let's start in on. That feels pretty good like that. Here's our next tree. This will feel good. Okay, cool. So, hey, what's going on? What's up, Gabby? Doing really well, thanks. I'm going to be out of here in a few minutes. It's a holiday here, and I have the day off, so I started at regular time, and I've had the opportunity to push in a little bit deeper, but I've got some family and friend stuff happening this today, so I'm going to bounce out of here in a few minutes and start gearing up for that for the day. But then I'll be back tonight to work on bashing campaigns like usual. So I've still got a few minutes left, so I'm just going to keep at it. And then we'll be with this again tomorrow. I'll be back at work like usual tomorrow. Hey, how you doing, Steve? It's good to see you. Everybody sleeping because of the holiday? Yep. Holidays are opportunities for me to get work done. So if I can avoid it, I will avoid sleeping in on a holiday, in preference of just getting a little bit more grind out. I do love holidays though, because they're so casual. I'm actually almost capped out on vacation time again at work, so I can accumulate up to 200 hours of vacation time, and once I exceed 200 hours, I don't gain any more. I don't get any more. I have to spend it for me to get any more. So I'm constantly somewhere between like 160 and 200 hours accumulated, and once it creeps up to 190 plus, I'm like, I gotta burn a few days of vacation time. I don't go on long vacations, really. Life's a little bit too busy for me to step away for a week at a time. So I like to sneak in 1 or 2 day little pops here at like the beginning or the end of the week. Get some. It's good to see you, my man. I appreciate you guys a lot. Thank you. So I'll be doing family friend stuff today, and then I'll be back to do bashing campaigns tonight like normal, around 6 o'clock Seattle time, -8 UTC. We'll do that for a few hours, and then I'll be back at work tomorrow. I think I'm gonna take a couple days off next week, just to keep my vacation time from capping out. So I might have Monday and Tuesday off next week. We'll see what happens. I suspect I'm going to take at least Monday off next week. Sometimes I'll just tack on an extra day onto a holiday. Like there was I debated whether I wanted to have this be a 4-day weekend versus just a 3-day weekend because of vacation time. But I've got too much stuff going on in the day job for me to step away at the moment. But I can prepare for it for next week. Almost out of time. Tree had a stroke. The right hand side is like completely just the right side is like completely limp, while the left side still has some branches that are hanging in there. I feel like I want to thin this a bit. Nice. to... I have a lot to say right now. I've been talking a lot. Normally I don't run like this for more than 2 hours at a time. So I'm getting into I'm in overtime now, and so my speech is running dry. But I only got a few minutes left, so. That 8:59. Just waiting for Muse to let me go. There we go. Okay, cool. I can go ahead and hit stop here for now. This is where we're at. I'll be back working on this again tomorrow morning. I'll be back online in 9 hours to work on the Bastion campaign some more. We'll be working on sieges and sabotage, and if we have time, we'll be getting into Bastion events and complications. And yeah, so that's it for now. Thanks a lot for hanging out with me, guys. And I will be back tomorrow morning for more artwork. So if you think this stuff is cool and you want to see some more of this stuff later on tonight, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications. More live in the future. Check out my stack of stuff down below if you want. It all has free previews. Purchases are always appreciated. Buy a book. It's a vote of encouragement for more of that. So check out my stuff. If you see anything you like, be welcome to join my Discord community and ask questions. And I'll see you guys in 9. So cheers.